Good morning. Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church West on this wonderfully rainy June Sunday, much needed. In this place, we occupy the traditional territory of the native peoples of the Seven Council Fires, Ho-Chunk, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Menominee, Peoria, and Miami nations. We acknowledge our need to address racism, which continues to lead to the violent deaths and oppression of Jews, Black, and indigenous peoples, and other people of color. We know that anti-Semitism, anti-Black racism, and colonialism perpetuate inequalities, injustices, poverty, and exclusion in U.S. society. In this Pride Month, we also acknowledge that in these fear-filled, hostile times, our faith continues to be an unapologetic champion for LGBTQIA+ people and their families. May we be those champions. With that knowledge held close, we commit ourselves to becoming an anti-racist faith community dedicated to equity, racial justice, and right relations. My name is Kristen Bussey, and I serve on your Board of Trustees. Today, continuing with June's theme, the path of vulnerability, we're exploring how our need to be comfortable might protect us from risking our vulnerability. It's so good to be together as a loving and evolving community, gathering in and among so many different spaces. To all of you online, you know that while we can't see you, we know you're out there. Wherever we are physically, our hearts and spirits are one. Later in this service, all of you out there in virtual land will have an opportunity to participate in sharing joys and concerns. So go get your phone or a pencil. If you don't have Rev Julie's cell number, write it down right now. So here are a few things to help you settle in and feel at home. If you're a newcomer, in person or with us online, and you'd like to connect further, please talk to me after the service or send an email to visitor@uucw.org. Or use one of the welcome signs of the yellow form that you received when you entered the sanctuary. You can put the form in the offering baskets later. And today is the first Sunday of our summer RE. I know our kids are excited about it. Today, our kids here in the sanctuary for the story, they're here in the sanctuary for the story, and on most Sundays during the summer, they will be going directly to their own space right after 10 a.m. for UU Play. We'll be offering a time in the service today for spoken joys and concerns. If you rather, you can also use the share side of the yellow form to let us know what's happening in your life. You can put it in the offering basket, or at any time you can go to the side table and to light a candle and put that form in the box there. And as a reminder, there's coffee and tea time. If you'd like to join us in the noisy community room, you're welcome there. And also quiet spaces here in the sanctuary or upstairs. We invite you to chat and socialize. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have then. And while I encourage you to read through all of the announcements that are in your order of service, I'll highlight a few which could offer some opportunities for you to get involved. So join Rev Julian, Vicki, and others on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, June 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. to discuss how re-envisioning the campus committee. It will be a chance to give and get honest input towards forming a new team. If you'd like, please contact Vicki with her vickyb@uucw.org to RSVP or get the Zoom link. Then also coming up the end of June is the Religious Education Committee meeting, June 28th at 6:30, where we plan to plan RE programs for children, youth, and families starting in the fall of 2023. And parents and non-parents are welcome to join this group. So contact Dave Cicero if you would like to get involved. And along those same lines, there's an adult RE committee meeting that will be coming up in Wednesday, June 21st at 11 a.m. to plan short-term or drop-in educational opportunities for adults starting in the fall of 23 as well. And then I'd also just like to highlight for those of you who weren't able to join us last week for the annual meeting, the members of the UUCW elected this year's slate of candidates for the Board of Trustees. And so we have new Board of Trustees joining us, those being Barb Holzauer, Kathy White, and Eric Zern. Please take the time to thank them all for joining the board. So it's always a joy to spend Sunday morning with you. I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit, enter, rejoice, and come in, which is 361 in the hymnal. If you want to drum or rattle or shake, head over to the worship exploration table and get an instrument. Let's sing.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
That was joyful. These words, a call to worship, were written by Sharon Wiley for Transgender Day of Visibility, which is held each year on March 31st. We speak so often of brokenness in religious life. Let us speak today of wholeness. You are welcome here, all of you, every part of you, beautiful, just the way you are. Here you do not need to be something more or something less. No holding back, no hiding, no exerting yourself, no trying to do more or be more. You have inherent worth and dignity. Nothing to prove here, nothing to prove to me, or to the person sitting next to you, or to children, or to anyone. You don't have to try and be witty, or more quiet, or more outgoing. You are beautiful. Every part of you beautiful just the way you are. You do not need to change anything about yourself to be welcome here. Your skin, your hair, your belly, your limbs, your face, all beautiful just the way they are. You are extraordinary. Each and every one of you different from each and beautiful in your own beautiful way. Breathtaking. So let us worship together. We're going to begin by lighting our chalice.
Halban. Thank you. Please join me in reading them. We light our chalice flame for those who lived in lives in closets of shame, for those who furtively visited the bars where nobody knew your name, for the Stonewall riot and the fierce trans women who fought, for the plague, which still takes far too many, too young, too soon. So many gone, so many never lived to see. Out gay kids singing on TV, out gay people serving in the military, marriage equality, families formed by intention, we light our chalice flame for all these and for all our siblings of the rainbow, surviving, living life out in the open with pride. With these words reminding us that we are unapologetic champions for LGBTQIA+ people and their families, we light our chalice.
So I thank Reverend Lori Lobbin for those words. It's not her fault. She has a name that most people can't pronounce. Many of us remember her as a local minister here. And I can't help but think of Hanukkah and Toby right now as well. Fond memories. Well, good morning. I'm Dave Cicero, Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at UUCW. My pronouns are he and his. I grew up without much open discussion and understanding, conversation about issues that have become more common, at least, in the mainstream these days. While not universally accepted, the role of humans in climate change, the desperate need in America for racial equity, and acceptance of the broad spectrum of gender and sexual identities. These are all things that Unitarian Universalists hold as important values. I'm an educator, and so am aware, cognizant of things that I'm learning in my life. And one lesson that's been repeating itself over and over again, so I think must be true, is that some things are just true, even when you haven't heard of them before, or when you don't understand them, or when they make you a little bit uncomfortable. The result of that awareness has been that I've become more trusting of other people and what they tell me. That is, I've learned that it's never my place to decide whether someone else's story is true or valid. That's their story. Today, I'm sharing with you the story of Jazz Jennings in the book I Am Jazz, written with Jessica Herthel. I Am Jazz. For as long as I could remember, my favorite color has been pink. My second favorite color is silver. My third favorite, green. Here are some of my other favorite things: dancing, singing, backflips, drawing, soccer, swimming, makeup, and pretending I'm a pop star. Most of all, though, I love mermaids. Sometimes I even wear a mermaid tail in the pool. My best friends are Samantha and Casey. We always have fun together. We like high heels and princess gowns, or cartwheels and trampolines. But I'm not exactly like Samantha and Casey. When I was very little, my mom would say, "You're such a good boy." And I would say, "No, Mama, good girl." At first, my family was confused. They'd always thought of me as a boy. As I got a little older, I hardly ever played with trucks or tools or superheroes, only princesses and mermaid costumes. My brothers told me this was girl stuff. I kept right on playing. My sister says I was always talking to her about my girl thoughts and my girl dreams, and how one day I would be a beautiful lady. She would giggle and say, "You're a funny kid." Sometimes my parents let me wear my sister's dresses around the house. But whenever we went out, I had to put on my boy clothes again. This made me mad. Still, I never gave up trying to convince them. Pretending I was a boy felt like telling a lie. Then, one amazing day, everything changed. Mom and Dad took me to meet a new doctor who asked me lots and lots of questions. Afterward, the doctor spoke to my parents, and I heard the word transgender for the first time ever. That night at bedtime, my parents both hugged me and said, "We understand now. Be who you are. We love you no matter what." This made me smile and smile and smile. Mom and Dad told me I could start wearing girl clothes to school and growing my hair long. They even let me change my name to Jazz. Being Jazz felt much more like being me. Mom said that being Jazz would make me different from the other kids at school, but that being different is okay. What's important, she said, is that I'm happy with who I am. Well, being Jazz caused some other people to be confused too, like the teachers at school. At the beginning of the year, they wanted me to use the boys' bathroom, play on the boys' team in gym class, but that didn't feel normal to me at all. I was so happy when the teachers changed their minds. I can't imagine not playing on the same team as Casey and Samantha. Even today, there are kids who tease me, or call me a boy name, or ignore me altogether. This makes me feel crummy. Then I remember that the kids who get to know me usually want to be my friend. They say I'm one of the nicest girls at school. I don't mind being different. Different is special. I think what matters most is what a person is like inside. And inside, I am happy. I am having fun. I am proud. I am Jazz. So you may have guessed this is a true story, and when we read this at the band book story hour a couple weeks ago, some people shared that they have seen documentaries about Jazz Jennings and that sort of thing too on the news, and so it's just a great example of someone being who they are and being accepted. And I'm sure life is not easy for them. We're all different. We're all special. And thank you for allowing me to share this book with you today. We have someone who has volunteered to come up to light the chalice. Harold? And if you'll join me in singing the children out today, please. As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always.
Good morning. I'm Tom Cruise, and I'm doing a reading right now that is rather intense, so I'm glad you're sitting down. It's about a riot You heard it mentioned in the chalice lighting, Stonewall. This is a reading, it was written by the Reverend Otto O'Connor, UUA minister. So, if you can, imagine, I think this piece was presented to his congregation. So, if you can, imagine me as O'Connor making this presentation to his congregation. It's called On a Holy Night in 1969. It's both educational, about the beginnings of pride, and a call to a life and love, to defiance and celebration out loud. On a holy night in 1969, in an inn known as a bar called the Stonewall Inn, a basement which had no running water and no good working fire exit, queer people of many colors and kinds danced together, for it was the only place where they were allowed to dance, at least permitted to, by the mafia who ran the bar, who owned the bar. In those days, it was common for the police to frequent this inn, not to join the dance, the underground celebration, but to send the dancers home and arrest them. When they would arrive, the lights would go on, the people would be lined up, and then those in drag, all those who were trans, all those without proper identification, they were arrested and taken into custody. But on this holy night, that early morning of June 28th, the people said, "Not tonight." As they called them to line up, the trans women refused to go. And as the police began to beat them and arrest them, and as the people spilled out from the bar onto the street, Christopher Street, a crowd grew to watch. And then, as trans women, lesbians, and gay men were getting arrested, a yell came from the crowd, "Gay power!" And as a trans woman was shoved, she shoved back, and the crowd began throwing bottles at the wagon, and suddenly it erupted. For once, the people didn't line up. For once, the people said, "No more. We've had enough." But it's almost as if that night, being pulled out of the darkness of the underground of Stonewall Inn, one too many times, they said, "I'm ready to be seen." On this holy night, when the power of the oppressed rippled through the streets of New York, when queer people said, "No more," our world would never be the same. 50 years ago, it was illegal to be gay, to be trans, to dance, and to love and to celebrate. And now, only 50 years later, here we are celebrating at a church. Gay and straight together, queer and straight together, trans and cis together, all in this together. And so we hear these stories of life and love and defiance and celebration. Let us also remember to pay tribute to our movement ancestors, many of them trans women of color who led the first rebellion that night. You see, Pride is a celebration of that anniversary, the anniversary of that riot at the Stonewall Inn in New York City, a holy night. So, happy Pride! Welcome to this joyful celebration. Bring your whole selves, your gay, your lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer selves, your drag queen, butch and femme, cross-dressing, nail painting, tutu-wearing selves, your queer gender, gender fluid, agender, pansexual, quilt bag selves, and all the other identities that are and will be. Now let us have a celebration, because joy is a rebellion too, queer and fabulous, and this church is queer. Amen? Let us begin.
Thank you, Tom. Bring your whole selves. We enter now a time for sharing of joys and concerns, sorrows, gratitudes that touch our individual lives. This is one way to express through ritual the many ways that we touch one another and that we are touched by each other. In a moment, you'll be invited to come to the mic to share aloud. Those present online can send me a text if you'd like to share, and again, that number is 2. Or if you have something you'd rather not share out loud, then you can use the QR code on the order of service or the share side of the yellow slip you got when you came in the room. You can raise your hand if you need a writing implement. And at any time during the week, you can use the link in the e-news to let us know what's on your heart. Remember that what you share here will not be shared or posted in the video of the service or shared in the e-news unless you indicate that. So it's only for the ears of those present gathered now in this time. So come to the mic if you'd like to share something, or raise your hand and an usher will bring you a mic. I'll light a candle for you, and after each sharing, I invite you all to respond with me. We hold you in love. You can come to this side of the mic and form a line if you'd like. Please come. I'm also going to light a few more candles. Again, just a candle for this month of Pride, with a prayer that all be held in love and safety. And a candle for a pet store in Heartland, where swastikas were painted on their door this week. There was a Stop the Hate event there yesterday. This is for those store owners. And in a similar vein, this candle is for the Zao Milwaukee Church. These are people who came to support this congregation when you had a drag queen story hour several years ago. And they were holding a Pride family event yesterday and were targeted by a national anti-hate group. And so there was a protest in support of them, or a counter-protest in support of them yesterday. So this is for those folks and for the great work that they do. And finally, just a candle for, maybe not quite final, the penultimate candle for all of you online, just letting you know that we love you, we know you're there, glad you're with us. And then finally, a candle for everything that is held in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts and our lives, the things that we're not sharing out loud today, but I know that all of us have them. This is life. Joys, sorrows, gratitudes. May they be held safely there. So it's sometimes said that a minister's job is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. And this song is for those who are feeling afflicted. So please join me in singing in the spirit of prayer. You can remain seated if you wish. You can stand if you'd like. If you like the exercise, just to be on your feet in a different position. Ruben's going to lead you along. And just join in as you're able. The song is called Comfort Me.
Comfort me.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Sing with me.
Sing with me,
Sing with me. Sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me. Speak for me. Speak for me. Speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me. Speak for me. Speak for me, oh my soul. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul.
One of my oldest and dearest friends passed through Brookfield on Friday, and we talked seemingly nonstop for 12 hours. He's a gay man, and because of the times we are in, our conversation kept returning to our mutual bewilderment at why so many folks feel threatened by the existence of any gender expression outside of the male-female binary. So threatened, so discomforted that they would resort to hatred and violence, trying to squash the very existence of anything and anyone who flies in the face of their perception of normalcy. Flies in the face, flies, gadflies, flies that bite, flies that annoy and provoke. An article in yesterday's Washington Post tells of how Florida's anti-LGBTQ laws are prompting families who feel unsafe to flee that state. Those laws take effect on July 1st. Laws that allow doctors to deny care based on their own moral beliefs. Laws that ban the use of preferred pronouns in schools. Laws that bar children from attending drag shows. These in addition to a law already in place that prohibits gender-affirming health care for transgender people under the age of 18. And gay rights activists say that they're alarmed by the sheer number of bills and the increasingly hostile rhetoric from Florida's governor and state lawmakers. So much so that the NAACP issued a travel advisory in May saying that the overall impact of the laws make Florida openly hostile towards African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ+ individuals. Pride parades have been canceled. Some transgender families are placing their children in private schools, and a growing roster of LGBTQ families and individuals are opting to leave. And that article tells the story of one trans adult with queer, non-conforming children who's feeling targeted, unsafe, and who is fleeing the state. Now, of course, there are many who cannot afford to relocate, so advocates have started GoFundMe pages and a Transit Underground, which is an informal coalition to help connect those leaving with volunteers who could offer transportation and temporary housing. And DeSantis's response, he said, "We have a very crazy age that we live in. There's a lot of nonsense that gets floated around. What we have said in Florida is we are going to remain a refuge of sanity and a citadel of normalcy," unquote. Schools have ordered teachers to remove rainbow flags and safe space stickers from their classroom. Some teachers, fearful of getting into trouble, began pulling books from their bookshelves, books like And Tango Makes Three, which we read at our band book story hour last week, a sweet, true story about two male penguins who form a family. This all in the interest of a citadel of normalcy. Now, you might think that Florida is a long way from Wisconsin, yet you're probably aware that similar laws are being passed or proposed in almost every state. The ACLU is currently tracking 491 anti-LGBTQ bills. And while not all of these bills will become law, they will cause harm for LGBTQIA+ people. They are meant to erase people. They're meant to make life more comfortable for the majority. Now, to my knowledge, there are no such bills being considered by the state of Wisconsin. But in the familiar words of Martin Niemöller, first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me, lest we forget. As a Florida activist, Scott Galvin said, "When all of this started, we had a hard time motivating people in the LGBTQ community who don't have children, and now they're starting to realize that we're all under attack. We are all under attack." Locally, schools are busy banning books, and Waukesha recently prohibited a first grade class from singing Rainbow Land, a song by Dolly Parton and Miley Cyrus at their concert. This week, the Arrowhead Union High School began considering a policy that would ban safe space stickers, as well as any flags, with the exception of American and Wisconsin flags, signage, stickers, or similar items for display, anything that would denote a division of race, ideology, sexual orientation, gender preference, or political affiliation, unquote. The proposal says that these things create a feeling of isolation, division, and estrangement. For whom, I wonder? Who feels isolated, divided, and estranged? Who is uncomfortable? We are rainbows, me and you, every color, every hue. Let's shine on. As I mentioned in the time of joys and concerns, I was aware of at least two Stop the Hate events yesterday, one at the counter protest at Zao Milwaukee Church, and the other at a pet store in Heartland. This discomfort, these gadflies, are all around us. And if you are not aware, there are currently small swarms of gadflies within Unitarian Universalism criticizing where our liberal faith is headed and trying to provoke us to abandon the course toward dismantling white supremacy and dismantling racism and other oppressions. Two seminal books express opposing views. The first is called The Gadfly Papers, was written by Reverend Todd Eckhoff in 2019, a book which condemns sensitivity and diversity work in our culture and in our faith, and which launched the self-named Gadflies in our movement into action. And the second is the recently published A Gadfly Report, written by Reverend Dennis McCarty, which addresses and responds to those gadflies, those who, in his words, feel unnerved by a perceived loss of privilege and status, and who denounce marginalized members' right to belong among us and be themselves, unquote. Now, my intent today is not to address any particular conflict. My concern, my focus is on for those of you who identify in this way, our white normative experience of living in a comfortable space where our perceptions and experiences are centered and where we're able to constantly see ourselves reflected in media, entertainment, advertising, and education. Because in this position, whenever we are confronted with things that jangle our reality, it's easy, maybe even natural, to react defensively, to feel that we deserve our comfort, that any challenge is a threat, and that our privilege, our existence, somehow is being attacked. Now, McCarty addresses this inbred comfort in the introduction to his book, and it's on this uncomfortable pillow that I rest my eyes and thoughts this morning. Discomfort. When we feel uncomfortable, we can react thoughtlessly and even harmfully. And yet, we must be discomforted in order to embrace or encourage change. In the words again of McCarty, progress and enrichment do not come from maintaining one's own comfort level. That is, we must become more comfortable with being uncomfortable if we want to see any positive change. And so it would seem the skill we need is to exist in discomfort without reactivity, but rather with humility and curiosity. You know, it's kind of like we need our own internal gadflies so that we pester ourselves to take another clearer, more inclusive vantage point. You know, thinking about gadflies just makes me think about mosquitoes. In outdoor life, I am less susceptible to mosquitoes than others. I don't know what it is, but I can coexist them without them bothering me too much, and I even kind of question why my friends are bothered. Like, what's wrong with you? It's okay. But I am not immune from feeling uncomfortable. And just a little bit of a trigger warning for anyone who identifies as queer. I just want to talk about sometimes my own reactivity, and so just so you know that's coming. Let me be uncomfortably vulnerable here and say that sometimes, for example, sometimes, in the presence of vehement and passionate activists, this from my, Scandinavian, Midwestern roots, in the presence of vehement and passionate activists, especially those who live really big and out loud, I can get uncomfortable and sometimes even judgmental. This, even though I believe in each person's right to express themselves authentically, even though I want to delight in the many ways we are different, this, even though I recognize and honor and am so grateful for those folks who were out loud and proud in 1969 and in so many ways before and after that date. And yet I can get uncomfortable. And even getting to this place can be difficult, where I can step into that discomfort when I can engage in being self-reflective so that I can wonder why. Why do I feel uncomfortable? Do I feel threatened? Or what? Am I resisting something? What's going on? I would like to think that I'm open to learning about and from those who express themselves differently than I do, but instead sometimes I can feel a little bit annoyed and even put upon. And that's the place I want to dig into. Why is that? Maybe I'd rather keep their experience at arm's length to let it remain vague and undefined. Because when someone's difference flies in my face, it threatens me by cutting through the vagueness, showing me what it's really like for them. And a less than desirable part of myself, that is my discomfort, gets a little exposed. Now, McCarty speaks of this, our human Ananslossigkeit. How's that? It's a German word meaning cluelessness, saying that we have a seemingly bottomless capacity for self-delusion. We choose to keep things vague, especially when it comes to the suffering of others. Like, don't make me look. Don't make me feel your pain. Don't discomfort me. He tells the story of a time during Nazi Germany when a Jewish man was late for an appointment with a German ally. And this ally ought to have been a man who was at least somewhat familiar with the daily reality for Jews. The Jewish man apologized for being late, saying that the weather was bad and there was snow and he had holes in his shoes. Then you should get new shoes, the ally told him. But Jews are not allowed to buy leather goods, the man replied. Even if he had money, which he didn't. I cannot buy new shoes. Surprised, the ally tells him, well, then you should ride the tram. It's not far by tram. And then the man must explain, Jews are not allowed to ride the tram. Clueless. How would I respond if I were that ally? I would like to think I would notice the correction and learn something from it. I'm not sure of that, though. I wonder if instead my allyship would remain conditional on retaining my own comfort level, remaining clueless. But McCarty writes, cluelessness is not innocence, and neither is vagueness. Both can produce serious effects. It seems to me that self-education, along with receptiveness to the actual lived experiences of persons very different from ourselves, are the only remedy for our own cluelessness. Listening to the marginalized is the soul of forward-looking wisdom, unquote. In Martin Luther King's words, we must open ourselves to re-education and change the narrative of how we view ourselves. We're called to overcome our cluelessness, our Ananslossigkeit. We need to compel ourselves to listen to those at the margins and accept and acknowledge their experiences. We need to see them. And we need to pester ourselves to name things clearly and face them head on and to begin to recognize white supremacy culture and white fragility for what it is. This can be uncomfortable and distressing, but again, this kind of humility is what can help us to begin to overcome that cluelessness and to live with true compassion. There's just not enough time this morning to really talk about this, and there's so much to learn, to unpack, to get uncomfortable with. I encourage you to read McCarty's book. I also really encourage you to look up a Medium article called Gadsby Gadfly. For those of you who know who Hannah Gadsby is, the comedian, it's an article about her. I would have loved to talk with you about that today, but again, there's just not enough time. So let me close with a few important points McCarty makes. First, while doing injustice is difficult and uncomfortable work, and while we might get bitten sometimes, clinging to the comforts of privilege and rejecting change and learning means that we'll miss out on the brightest possibilities in our future. We are not prisoners of our discomfort. Not unless we choose to be. Second, we are a covenantal faith, and that covenant is not about being perfect. Our covenant with one another requires humility, Covenant is about seeking understanding, overcoming our personal and institutional egos, and getting back into relationship when and where relationship has been damaged, humbly. Lastly, we are fellow travelers exploring an ever-changing land. We don't have the answers. Maybe we never will, and we are not done with our changes. So let's just keep on asking and pondering and being curious and forthright, getting comfortable with discomfort. In this way, together, we are moving toward a human, intellectual, and social abundance previously unknown to us. Bright possibilities, abundance, rainbows, me and you. Let's go there. Let us be discomforted in service of this shining vision. May it ever be so. Amen. A hymn with more appropriate words for today could hardly have been written. That's number 31, which contains the poetry of Brian Wren. The tune, which you just heard Ruben play, I'm sure is not familiar to you. But it's okay to be comfortable, uncomfortable, I mean, right? So I invite you to stand as you're willing and to sing. We're just going to sing the first 3 verses to number 31. Unspoken, tangled or broken, shaping a tapestry vivid and warm, named, unnamed, hidden and shown, knowing and known, Gloria, nudging discomfort, prodding and shaking, waking our lives to creative unease, straight forking lover, checking and humbling, jargon and grumbling, speaking the truth that refreshes and frees, named, unnamed, hidden and shown, knowing and known.
The Fair Housing Act of 1968 expanded on previously passed civil rights acts. While it prohibited discrimination concerning the sale, rental, and financing of housing, enforcement in Milwaukee and Wisconsin was uneven at best. So, 49 years ago, a group of people living in and around Milwaukee decided to take action. The result is a private, nonprofit, membership-based coalition whose purpose, as its name proudly states, is to fight for fair housing. The Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing Council is comprised of people who welcome anyone who needs their help to stand up to discrimination practices and make open and inclusive communities the norm. Please watch this short video that highlights the continued mission to protect everyone's right to shelter.
Civil rights activists fought long and hard for laws that would make it illegal to discriminate in the housing market based on race, disability, national origin, and other characteristics. While we now have fair housing laws in place, the fight isn't over.
In the United States, Black people are the targets of half of all hate crimes based on race and ethnicity, and hate is on the rise. We must act together to stop it. When hate happens in housing situations, the Fair Housing Council can help you protect your rights. Sometimes, you know you have faced discrimination in a housing situation. When you file a complaint with the Fair Housing Council, you're fighting for your own rights, and you're helping open doors for others too. Together, we can build communities where everyone is welcome.
Questions about fair housing rights or how to get involved in this modern-day civil rights work? Contact the Fair Housing Council.
The Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing Council is our current Split the Plate partner. Here at UUCW, Split the Plate is our way to fulfill our UU values and reach out to the community. If you are participating virtually, go to our website, UUCW, click on Donate, and select Split the Plate from the menu. Or you can text or mail your donation today using the information found here. I thank you for your generosity to the Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing Council. We will now gratefully accept your offering.
You may note that I'm not Louise. I am subbing for her today. The Reverend Dr. Rebecca Ann Parker served as president of Star King School for the Ministry for 25 years. As a religious activist, she was engaged with Central American issues, women's issues, and lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender concerns. Parker is also an accomplished cellist. How does anybody ever have time for all of that? I don't know. I stand in awe. And she writes these words. In the midst of a world marked by tragedy and beauty, there must be those who bear witness against unnecessary destruction and who, with faith, rise and lead in freedom with grace and power. There must be those who speak honestly and do not avoid seeing what must be seen, of sorrow and outrage, of tenderness and of wonder. There must be those whose grief troubles the water, while their voices sing and speak refreshed worlds. There must be those whose exuberance rises with lovely energy that articulates earth's joys. There must be those who are restless for respectful and loving companionship among human beings, whose very presence invites people to be themselves without fear. There must be those who gather with the congregation of remembrance and compassion, draw water from old wells, and walk the simple path of love for neighbor. And there must be communities of people who seek to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God, who call on the strength of soul force to heal, to transform, and to bless life. For there must be religious witness.
Thank you. Holly Near wrote a beautiful song about being proud advocates and allies for justice, trans and cis together, queer and straight together. Her song calls us to see ourselves for who we are and to name the work that needs to be done, all that we might bless life and transform our world. I invite you to stand as you're willing and able to sing 170, We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
remain standing for our closing words. Take a breath or two. Say a silent word of thanks to all those who made today possible, including our staff, our ushers, our greeters, our coffee makers, our speakers. Then offer a prayer of gratitude for this holy calling to be unapologetic advocates for love and justice. May we, in the words of Melissa Jeter, grow out of our comfort. And now hear these words attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. Where hate rules, let us bring love. Where sorrow, joy. Let us strive more to comfort others than to be comforted, to understand others, to love others more than to be loved. For it is in giving that we receive, and in pardoning that we are pardoned. So go now and be always more understanding, more comforting than comfortable, and of course, always, always more loving. Blessed be Ashe. Amen.